Hey everybody, Tim here, GraymanPOTA, amateur radio call sign November Whiskey 9 Foxtrot. Well, I'm here at Hamcation down in Orlando, Florida, and I'm at the PreppComm booth. And PreppComm has got a very interesting product that could help you. And as you guys know, I'm both in the overlanding community and the ham radio community, but a great product that might be good for you on the trail to have with you, especially you know, if you're stuck somewhere or you're broken down and you need assistance. Cell phones, GMRS radios, you know, regular HTs on UHF, EHF have a very limited range, but HF is a great product. And the difference between talking on the radio and Morse code could mean the difference in making a contact. And so PreppComm's got a really nice kind of device here that you don't need to know Morse code to be able to communicate with Morse code. Dits and das travel much further, much easier to interpret. So we're going to talk with Eric, the chief inventor of PreppComm, and find out a little bit about his product, how you set it up. They've got some that are their own transceivers, and some, and I guess all of them interface directly into to your radio if you have one. So without further ado, let's talk to Eric and find out a little bit more about this product. All right, so this is Eric Anderson. He is the chief inventor here at PreppComm, and he's going to tell us a little bit about their unit and how you can connect it into your radio.
Yeah, I want to start off by talking about why you might use this in overlanding or any other outdoor activity, or for an emergency, especially in an area where there's not a lot of population, but also in a populated area. The problem in an emergency is communication. A lot of people rely on GMRS and other short-range VHF, UHF. And that works as long as there's an infrastructure to support it and as long as that's running. But in emergencies, that often fails because it's overloaded. Normally, only a few people are using GMRS at one time, but when there's an emergency, everybody's trying to use it. If you have a repeater during an emergency, everybody's trying to get on a repeater. We have had that experience, and we know that if you have an emergency, the repeater is one channel, and you have 500 people trying to get on it at the same time, it basically doesn't work. That's true of satellite phones, that's true of everything. It's designed for everyday use, not designed for emergencies. So what you have to think about is what will work in an emergency where any infrastructure is unreliable or not present at all. HF is the only solution to that problem because it doesn't need any infrastructure outside of what you have yourself. And that can be our radio, it can be any HF radio that has the capability of operating off a battery and has a good range. Ours has a good range because it's Morse code. And that is usually avoided by a lot of people because who wants to learn Morse code? I mean, heck, I don't know Morse code. I know Morse code a little bit, but if I had to get on a key and try to transmit and then receive, it would be hopeless for me. I don't do that because I have this. The MMX is right here. This is a unit that requires no Morse code experience. It does all the Morse code for you. It does all the automation for you so that you can operate, you can call CQ, you can actually call Mayday. You can pre-program a script for CQ Mayday, CQ Mayday, CQ Mayday, for example, which I would recommend if you're going to be using it in a situation where you expect there might be an emergency. And that's very easy to do. So what you have here is a 3-bander. We have a single bander unit as well. And for those who have a already existing small transceiver that would be portable, then we also have a no bander, and you use the transceiver that you already have. And this is the brains for that transceiver. So basically, that's a kind of a quick overview, and I'm going to turn this on and show you a little bit about it. I don't know if you can see the screen. So what you see on the screen, this is a color touch screen. This particular unit has 3 bands, 80, 40, and 20 meters. It does require an external antenna, and it doesn't require anything other than the keyboard that comes with. So you have the transceiver itself, a keyboard, and you do need a battery, such as a standard battery bank that you might have for charging your cell phone. That will work. And you'd want to get this cable, which is a 5-volt cable, 5 volt to 12 volts. It connects between the USB connector on the top of the battery bank, and it converts it to 12 volts, is what the transceiver needs. So those are available on our website for a very low price, actually. So basically, if you look at the screen, I'm going to touch it to make the logo go away. And what you have now is on the top of the screen that's black, that's an area where the text shows up for what's coming in or going out. What's coming in is in white, what's going out is in blue, so it's pretty easy to tell. This line here is 5 buttons. They don't all look like buttons, but they all are all buttons. In the bottom you have the status, the volume, and the gain of the decoder. When you get it the first time, you select menu. This is the main menu. And on here you've got a number of options, but we're going to look at the local station setup. So you press that button, and now you would enter your call sign, your handle or name, your location, your name of your rig. The reason why this is not put in automatically for you is because this can connect to a different transceiver, in which case, such as if I had connected it to my ICOM 7300, then I would put ICOM 7300 in here. Because when you tell somebody what rig you're using, you don't tell them what the computer is, you tell them what the rig is. And if you're using this standalone, then that's the rig. But if you're using the ICOM 7300 as your transmitter and receiver, then that's the rig. And then finally you put in your antenna. As you can see here, I have a really powerful antenna known as a dummy load. And finally, you put in your license level, which limits where you can transmit. Now I would point out, in an emergency, you can change this to the extra class, because you can transmit on any frequency in an emergency. Whereas actual emergency, you can go to any radio, pick up the mic, turn it on, and call for help. That's the law. Doesn't matter whether it's maritime band, it doesn't matter what it is, you can do that. So, and even if you don't have a license, somebody in your family, or the person that is the ham is disabled, anybody in the family can go over here, and if they learn and get taught by the father or the mother or whoever has a license how to use the rig, even though they're not licensed, if there's an emergency, they can operate the rig. No problem. It's totally legal. Okay? Not in a non-emergency, of course not. Okay, so once you got that done, the next thing you want to do is you want to tell the computer how fast you can type, but you don't really know. So the way you do that is you go over here to the menu, the typing speed, and now you type this white line of text, sentence, a kind of a crazy sentence. It's constructed in a special way because it's counting dits and das. And you type that in, and if you make mistakes, you start over again and get it right. And then it'll automatically go to the next screen and show you what its recommended speed is. Now that can be edited. You can change it by backspacing and typing something different. But what that speed is the recommended speed based on what you type. Okay? And that's the maximum speed the transmitter will transmit.
So does this buffers the entire line of text, and then sends it, or is it sending in real time as you're typing?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
So you'll type in a sentence and then hit send, and then it transmits it.
No,
or
this is setting the limit of how fast you can send. So how fast you can type.
I'm talking about during just normal operations. When you go to type a message, you type the entire message. It buffers the entire message and then sends it in one string, or is it real time?
I'll show you how it works.
Okay.
It's a good question.
Okay.
It's about you'll see it, understand it when I show you.
Okay.
That's a good question. Okay. So, so now it's ready to go. So, the first thing, let's say I'm on a call. I mean, there's two ways of making a connection. One is I answer somebody else's call, or I call. Okay, in an emergency, you're typically going to call CQ Mayday.
Right.
Okay. So we're just going to do a CQ because it's not a Mayday. and we're going to go and press the call button. And because I didn't just turn it on, it knew a speed. But if I just turned it on, it would ask me for a speed. That's the last time I just used it, it was at that speed. So now it's doing CQ, and it's doing 4 CQs in a row, followed by DE, my call sign. DE means from.
Okay.
So it's kind of German, actually. So it'll run forever until I tell it to stop. So depending on how busy the band is, if the band is busy, a lot of people on it, you don't have to call very long. If the band is very quiet, there's not very much activity, you might have to call a while, maybe a couple of whiles before you get a response. And you might not get a response, okay? But anyway, so the way you tell it that's enough, you press the button again and the color changes. So it goes from red to amber. Now, either red or amber means the transmitter is on, but amber means it's finishing up.
Okay.
So it does a clean exit and finishes with a K, which means anybody come back. That's part of the nomenclature for CW.
Okay.
It's K at the end means anybody come back. If it's a KN, it means only the person I'm calling come back. Okay. And this knows that, so you don't have to worry about it. But I'm just explaining that. Okay. At this point, hopefully somebody's answering you. Now notice at the bottom here, we got it in the wrong mode by mistake. Here, let's put it in the right mode. Human CW, collecting data. So the way the decoder works is that it listens for maybe 15 or 20 seconds, collects a bunch of data of incoming code, and then it analyzes it for what speed is it going at, and what is the hand of the operator that's sending it. Once it's got that figured out, this will change to decoding at whatever words per minute, and it'll decode that information that's in the memory, spit that out on the screen, and then switch over to a real-time decoding and continue on across the screen as the person is sending, okay? When he gets done, he's going to hand it back to you by doing the station ID. Let's say it's W2OL, he'll say W2OL DE, in this case AF7YQ. That's handing it back. Now, as soon as he does that, what's going to happen? This right here, it says no CCS. CCS is captured call sign. We haven't captured any call sign yet, but as soon as he sends his call sign, bing, it'll show up there.
Okay.
This is the only rig on the market that will automatically capture the other station's call sign. Okay. Now, I did it from a function key because I programmed a little micro program to do that, but that can be loaded from the decoder, from a function, or I can type it in by typing it in, and then so there's 3 ways to put that in. Okay. But for now, we'll just use the function key because we don't have an antenna and nobody to decode.
Right.
So now at this point, when he has finished his transmission, we know his speed, we know his hand, and we know his call sign. Okay? So at this point, depending on his speed, okay, let's say we're at 22. That's my maximum. If he was coming in at 30, I will be transmitting now at 22. If he came in at 10, I would be sending back at 10.
Okay.
Because if he's sending at 10, the reason he's sending at 10 is that's how fast he can go. Okay. The guy sending at 40, that's how fast he can go, but I can't go that fast, so he'll just have to put up with my 22.
Right.
Okay, that's how it works. We're the only company that has that built into the rig.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what's going to happen when I press answer? First, it's going to start doing a station ID, and the second thing, it's going to put up the type ahead buffer at the top of the screen. And that's 2 lines, and I will start typing immediately so that when it gets finished with the station ID, it has something already to start sending. So there's no space, no wasted space.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to put this down, and I'm going to go do that, and you can watch. Okay, so that's all I'm going to send. And then we'll tell it, okay, I'm done. So then it goes to Amber. And at this point, it'll finish emptying the buffer. And when it finishes emptying the buffer, it will then finish sending the last letter in the buffer.
Okay.
Because it's not just the ending of the buffer, it also has to finish sending it. And then it'll go back and send the station ID. You'll see the buffer disappear, and now it's doing the station ID. Okay, so that's the basic mode of operation. And if you're a person that isn't a ham, and the person in your family or group is incapacitated, you can go in and use that mode to call CQ Mayday, or just call Mayday for that matter. You can that's something that the ham would pre-program in, so they would just hit function key 1, for example. Okay. Hit function key 1, it'll call CQ Mayday, and then when you think that's enough, hit function key 1 again, and it'll finish, and then you listen to an answer. So that's how that would work for a non-ham who doesn't really know how to operate the unit, but he can operate it because it's an emergency. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So there's two other things that these two buttons do. The answer button, we talked about you calling and somebody answering. In that case, you know that it's a two-way conversation, right? A two-way, they can hear you, you can hear them. There's a lot of times when one of the stations, they can hear you, but you can't hear them, or if they're calling CQ, you can hear them, but when you answer, they can't hear you. Yeah. That happens a lot. So the way to check for that, let's say somebody's calling CQ and you want to answer, but you don't know if they can hear you. So the way to find out is you press the button twice in a row. So press it once, press it again, and it's going to do what's called an answer validate, which is basically the shortest transmission you can do so that the other station knows that you're answering if they can hear you. Okay, which is just their call sign twice and your call sign twice, and a KN, which means only the station I'm calling to answer. Now at this point, hopefully they come back to you and now you do a regular communication. But if they may be calling CQ still, or they may be talking to somebody else, in which case, I guess they couldn't hear me.
Right. Okay.
So that's not how that works. The call button works when you have no CCS. But if you have something in the CCS, then it does something else. So let's say I want to set up, I want to get into a net, or I want to call a friend once a week. It's what's called a scheduled communication.
Right.
I will then press the no CCS button and type in his call sign. I'm not going to type it in because I'm holding the mic, so I'm going to use the one I programmed. Now when you use call, it's going to call that call sign. And I'm going to make it a shorty, right? Pressing it again. Yeah, I think I changed color. You'll notice that he's calling W2OL. I'm identifying myself, and then it says KN. So I only want W2OL to come back. Okay? So basically there's 4 different functions built into those 2 buttons, and that's done by if statements. So those 2 programs are actually in the manual. You can actually put that, actually program that yourself in the function keys. We have them built in, so you don't have to do that. But we actually show you what the programming is to do that. So you can learn from the programming, right?
Okay.
Okay. So in addition to that, we have, of course, the microprogramming. Here's what it looks like. I got 3 of them in there. There's 12. Okay. And I also can access that by hitting the M key. This guy here, that 4 little characters, is the one that will turn the transmitter on without doing the station ID, and I can type whatever I want. And then I hit the key, the function key, a second time to turn it off essentially, but it won't shut off until it's finished transmitting everything I type. Okay. That's a very useful function. So for example, let's say Bob asked me, well, what's the temperature in Florida? Break. He's not doing a handover by call sign. he's just saying break, I want to know the answer. So I just use function 2 in this case and type the answer and hit function 2 again.
Okay.
Right? So there's lots of different things you can do. This guy here is a call CQ for a contest. Now this one isn't using the call counter. There is a call counter you can use as well. And you can have a function key to increment the call if it's successful. And then when you make the next call, it shows up the number. There's all kinds of things you can do.
Okay.
So that's all built in. In addition to that, we also have frequency memories, but see, what band are we in? We're not in a band, so let's go to a band. So if I go here again and go to frequency memories, there's 10 of them for each band. You can have either the editor, when you click the edit button, you can enter the current frequency just by hitting save. You can type in a new one and hit save. You can also, by using this key, you can switch between where are you typing. So you can type a label as well.
Okay.
Okay. Now, once you got them in there, you can also access this by the F key, because what happens is, they're for the 0 to 9 key. So if you remember them, you can just press the right number to set the frequency. But if you're like me, after you got 30 of them in there, which I don't remember, right? So you hit the F, and then you can see, oh yeah, it's 7. Now you can turn that off and then hit 7, or you can just touch the 7 frequency or label, and it'll go to that one. So it's got lots of automation like that built in. So basically, that's a really quick overview of it. It's got a lot of other stuff, but that's basically the high level. Any questions?
So it sounds like it's not hard to learn. So like, for example, if I could run the basic operations with my wife. If I get incapacitated, she knows how to turn the radio on, and she can start pushing buttons to get assistance if needed, or at least
right.
And be intuitive enough that she could then carry on the conversation to give in more detail what our situation is.
Yeah, she's just typing. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So what's going to happen in that situation is, if you pre-program, actually you don't have to call Mayday. That's just going to get more attention faster.
Right.
But to call Mayday, you would just over here. I'll show you how you do that. Let's see if I can put that in and make it work real quick. Let's see if that works. Where did I put that in? I put that in. Where did it go? Did I forget to save it? Did I spell that right? Oh, goodness. Okay. Let's see. I think that's true. Okay, I did a boo-boo. Okay. All right. Yeah, anyway, you put a CQ Mayday in the question mark. I put the command for call instead of answer. Answer is exclamation mark. And I probably shouldn't be trying to do this on live. But yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
The whole idea is you do that offline so you get it working, and then you just tell them, okay, just plug it in, turn it on, and push F1.
Okay.
Or whatever. Okay. Or then that's how it would work. Or you just tell them turn it on and press call, and then press it again, and then wait for a while and press it again, and then hopefully somebody answers. I mean, that's the other alternative.
So I definitely think in situations where there's an emergency or a perceived emergency, stress levels go up. Focus narrows really tight.
Yeah.
So the simpler and easier
Yes.
that things can be made, push the big red button.
Yeah. And what you would have is a little card, maybe on the back of the unit or somewhere where just with a little 3x5 card. Step 1, do this. Step 2, step 3, step 4.
Yeah.
Because you're absolutely right. I mean, we sell a lot of these to preppers, and a lot of them will put them in their go bag and never look at them again, and hoping that when emergency comes, they will be able to get it out and use it.
Right.
And I tell them, you're going to be completely screwed because you have no idea how to use it when the time comes and you're too freaked out to learn.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, it's a. So one community that I'm involved in, with the overlanding community, not everybody's a ham radio operator.
Yeah.
They use GMRS, they use CB, they go and get the Bofings off of Amazon, and they're doing inter vehicle communication, and that's one thing.
Yeah, and that's great.
Right. But what happens when you are out in the middle of nowhere and your vehicle's incapacitated, your cell phone doesn't work, your GMRS radio, there's nobody on the other end because you're too far out of range. HF is something I've been, trying to kind of just slowly integrate, just show people, hey, HF ham radio, a lot of options out there. You throw up an antenna. Obviously, CW, you're going to do much better than try to do phone communication in getting range and having somebody to be able to hear you. Garmin inReaches, things like that, they're great, but there's always the potential that you're not going to make it to a satellite. Cell phones, if you don't have the infrastructure, you're not going to connect. And something like this scales this down to make it a much more reliable, easy to use device that somebody that doesn't necessarily have the experience, but with some minimal instruction, can learn how to do it when needed.
Yeah, so absolutely. I mean, the question really is, so why would you not be able to use GMRS? And the answer is simple. It either is going to be totally overloaded because everybody is in an emergency state.
Yeah.
And what happens when that happens? See, we simulate that, but we can't simulate it. What happens is everybody's completely freaked and they're holding the transmit button down, yelling for help. That's what happens. And what happens then is nobody can get through to anything. We had that happen in North Idaho. The repeater was completely overloaded. There was 500 people, literally 500 people, on their little Baofangs trying to use the repeater to call for help because their house was burning down because the fire was sweeping across and burning things down, and they were caught. They needed to get out of there, and they didn't know which way to go, and they were looking for help. And the county thought that repeater was going to be the answer, but it wasn't the answer because it's only one channel. Okay, and so this is the problem. I mean, it's amazing when they discovered that because I knew that. A lot of people knew that wasn't going to work, but the people up, and a lot of hams thought that was the answer.
Yeah.
And what happened, it was really bad because a lot of people could not get through, and they had all kinds of problems because of that. All kinds of loss, all kinds of people getting caught and trapped. It was a disaster. So they're now trying to figure out how to solve that problem. Yeah. And my answer to it, we actually made a proposal to our county. See, we have a group in the ham radio called ARES. ARES is a great group, and what they do is they assist the county in communication between different parts of what's going on so that they can mount a effective emergency response. And so they send out groups of hams with typically with a truck and a little pull along. And they set up a little station somewhere, and then they give reports of what's going on so that the county can figure out where to send stuff and how to help. but that doesn't cover a lot of area, right? And it's very helpful, but it's not the full answer. There's a whole bunch of other people, like all the citizens who are scared to death or worried, or they want to tell their parents who live in Florida that they're okay.
Yeah.
Right? We just had this giant earthquake, and I'm okay. And they want to go to Aries or the county to communicate. And the Aries and the county can't handle that. They actually can't handle their own communication, let alone that, right? So they've been looking for a solution, and we proposed that we start a program with the county called COM, which stands for Communication, Community Emergency Communication. Community emergency, not emergency response. So what that means is you train individuals who are willing to learn. You train them how to get a license. Actually teach them the license material, give them the test, get them licensed. Then you train them on the equipment, how to set it up, how to use it, and then the follow on to that, and also how to send and receive messages, and then you also have monthly or quarterly nets at least to keep them sharp. And so that's the plan. Now, whether we actually implement it or not, I don't know, but that's the plan. And CERT people are all in favor of it. We got 3 or 4 counties interested in it, but so far it's still in the formation stage. But that's what you need. You need individuals and that are hams that can provide the service for their neighborhood. Now, in the case of being out in the wild with a bunch of people doing cross country or something, you have the same situation, but it's a smaller group.
Yeah.
Right. So you may have one ham, but a lot of non-hams. So that one ham, he gets the license, he gets the equipment, knows how to use it. He sets it up, has a little card. Here's what you do if I fall and break a leg. Here's what you do to get help.
Yeah.
Right. And they can do that. It's no problem. It's illegal. It's totally 100% legal for a non-ham to use this equipment or any equipment in an emergency.
Absolutely.
So that's the important thing to know. And a lot of people buy this who aren't hams, thinking that they'll learn how to use it when there's an emergency because they can use it then. And that's a really bad choice.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a lack. It's kind of a mindset of, well, I'll just go and buy it. I'll set it in a drawer and I'll figure it out when I need it.
Yeah.
But sometimes figuring out when you need it is too late.
Yeah, exactly. We have a number of customers that come by today or yesterday and said, oh yeah, I bought one of those last year and I still haven't actually learned how to use it. It's like, why'd you buy it?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you bought it because just in case, but just in case it may come and you still don't know how to use it.
Yeah. Yeah, I really do like this concept, and I think you had mentioned Aries. My other thought, myself included, in the late '80s, I shied away from getting licensed because I didn't want to take the code test. I didn't want to learn Morse code. There's a whole flux of people coming into the hobby that aren't required to learn Morse code. So, and it has picked up. There's a renewed interest in it, but there's still a large majority of hams that are not licensed or that are not code proficient. And so even something like this in an Aries group for local HF communication, that if you've got operators that can do Morse code, great. If it's this group over here and Morse code is the only effective form at that time, they don't need a whole lot of training to still be able to relay information, provide that service, and do it in the most effective means at that time in that situation, because those are always changing. They're never going to be the same. It's never same situation twice. Right. It's always two different operators. So
and emergencies are always different, right?
Yeah, yeah. So the more set of tools that you can have as an operator when you're out doing these things, whether it's for emergency communications or it's just recreational, the more tools you have, the better off you're going to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and I think the basic mistake is relying on VHF or UHF.
Yes.
That's really a serious mistake, because especially for a prepper who says I'm going to buy all kinds of stuff so I don't have to rely on civilization. Oh, except for my HT. I'm going to rely on the civilization for that. What?
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
Yeah, I hear them talk a lot about, well, what happens when you need to talk to the guy on the other side of the mountain? That's not going to work.
Right.
Oh, well, I'll get a couple HTs and build this, crossband repeater. That's
Yeah, right.
yeah, okay.
Well, sure. In theoretical case, you could do that.
Yeah.
But in practical case, you're not going to do that. That's the problem.
Right.
By the way, this transceiver, it transmits only in Morse, but it receives AM, single sideband, and Morse.
Okay, so you can still listen, monitor, and get other forms of communication if needed.
Yeah, shortwave AM.
Because if you are disconnected from, we'll call it the grid, but disconnected from infrastructure for whatever reason, you can still get weather reports. You can still get news of the day.
Yes.
You can still have some attachment.
Absolutely. I mean, so if let's say in the worst case somebody EMP'd the United States, and there was no radio stations on the air, and so nobody was transmitting weather or what's happening and whatever. But there would be reports of the fact what's going on in the greater world coming in over various shortwave stations, and you can tune into them. Each band has a range of frequencies above and below that they can tune to.
Okay.
So, for example, 40 meters can tune, if I remember correctly, from 4.9 maybe or 4.2, I'm not sure, up to 10.2. So it can tune to like WWV, for example.
Okay.
Both WWVs, actually 5 and 10 megahertz.
I somewhere around 250, 7 point something, 2 something on up is, I believe, commercial AM radio in Europe.
Yeah.
And shortwave. So you'll hear in 40 meters at night, you'll start hearing commercial radio stations come in.
Yes, that's correct. And but there's a 31 meter band, there's a 39 meter band, which are shortwave broadcasters. Yeah. And then there's the 43 meter band. I mean, there's a bunch of different shortwave bands that you can get on this rig. So,
does this receive down in like commercial AM? Space. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But once again, at night, propagation.
Absolutely.
You can pick up low power AM stations from all over the country.
All over the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get your replay of ESPN Sports Center or whatever.
Did what?
Get the overnight replay of ESPN Sports Center on AM, so you can at least keep up on the baseball
but there
scores.
won't be any ESPN at that point.
Yeah, you never know. But, yeah. Well, Eric, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I learned quite a bit today.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much.
Yeah. Good to meet you.
Right,
and
nice to meet you, sir.
Good to talk to you.
All right. Good to talk to you. Thank you.